Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well and enjoying their Sunday. Sounds like the audio's working, good connection. Hey, we're on a roll. This is kind of what happens when you don't do podcasts in a while. Still haven't worked out the bugs. I don't know where all that background noise is coming from. I think some of it might be from the heater that's running. But other than that, I've got my gain turned as far down as I can get it to go down. So, oh, sorry to hear that, Bree. I'm actually finally just now starting to feel at least 70%. I'm not still dealing with a slight fever, but other than that, I feel much better. But like I said, there was a few topics I wanted to talk about, and they all fit into the this is the new realm. That's all right. You can check the replay will be up. Like I said, we are living in the new realm. You know, dealing with censorship, doxing, cancel culture, and the list goes on from there. Honestly, because it's pretty much all the same thing. It's about control. Everybody wants to control. Clear down to our everyday people on all the social media platforms. They want to have control. They be controlling what others think and say when it doesn't adhere to their ideas and beliefs and opinions. Or they're just getting so frustrated with everything that's in their face constantly. Like I said, a lot of times we misinterpret social media. It should be a fun thing. It should be a tool, but yet it's more like a cancer that, if you're not careful, gets to be very negative and has a very negative impact on your life. Like I said, sometimes we forget our history. I touched a little bit about this, and I don't know if it was the first coffee and chat the other day, or the second part. I got disconnected, couldn't get reconnected because somehow the servers were bogged down over on the mine. So that hasn't happened in a while. So, which I was shocked considering it was like a morning afternoon podcast. I was able to eventually get back up, but by the time I got back up, the window to reconnect was over. So, guys, when we reach the hour mark, there'll be a slight pause as I reconnect. If it's longer than a slight pause, look for a new video link in case we run into that problem. I also plan on opening up, allowing call-ins, or give you a link and you can actually just join me over here. Like I said, it's been a while since we've opened the door. I'm not posting it in the feed like I used to in the description because, well, we see how that ends up working out. There's always that, that one guy. Don't be that guy, but there's always that one that wants to ruin it for everybody intentionally, and that's why they do it. Many of which, some are paid and some are they just want to do it because what you're saying goes against what they believe, what they've been taught and programmed to believe. People can't think for themselves. This is how, this was how Rome grew and conquered. They took care of the wealthy, the elites in their cities. They gave them a place, a prestige, a say. And if we look at Rome, much as we see today, the posse comitatus, Roman soldiers were not allowed to bear arms inside the city. They were not allowed to actually enter the city in uniform with swords. Like I talked about, their Senate would elect a dictator. And it was supposed to be for like a 3 to 6 months process. Like I said, the history of Rome is important because it is kind of where our founding fathers took, same thing, and borrowed, whatever you want to call it. But they learned from history. They wanted a free republic, a free state. And we see the models through the various forms of structures of government throughout history, from the monarchies to the emperors. And it all boils down. It's all one same thing. It's all the caste system. But we have a Senate. We still have our great Colosseums of today that marvel some of the great gladiator Colosseums. But now we see how politics has even got into our sports and ruined our sports for many people. But these events are still designed based what the emperors and Caesars and dictators used the Colosseums for, to distract and appease the masses, to keep the people appeased. So in many ways, we haven't strayed from the old Rome. Many of our symbologies and symbols within our government are the very same symbols the Romans used. The eagle. That's how they manipulated and used people back then, was with information. They'd spread information to either hurt someone or to public humiliate, to discredit. The most powerful currency in this world, and has been for probably the beginning of time, is information. Those that control the information control society. Every great emperor, every great king and queen knew this. They'd hire their spies, their court gestures accordingly. And these are the things that we should look at because they're very much relevant in today. Because it's always the same old tactics. We just change the names, give it a colorful meaning that distracts you from what it really is. Censorship, doxing, cancel culture are nothing more than a form of assassination, assassinating one character, destroying a person's character, destroying their lives. You know, fuck, I think Elon Musk is the dumbest man on earth. But some people will say, no, he's the smartest man. No, people committed a criminal act. Now we got this, like, very same guy did dox this stuff and put it out there, saying, "Well, give me $50,000 or a Tesla, and I'll stop doing it." I mean, that's blackmail. That's a crime in itself. Doxing somebody, putting their information out there, is a crime. When you're doing it to intentionally cause harm. When you're doing it intentionally to endanger somebody. It's a straight up felony. Those guys should have been permanently suspended and charged with a crime. You know, I like how was going to do it. You know, I'll suspend you for 7 days, but he let them back. But he listened to the people, like all great Roman dictators did. It was, let me appease the people. Let me get their trust. But unfortunately, and I explained this, during that Coffee and Chat podcast the other day, that anybody that's ever worked on websites that's created algorithms understand how spam bots work. We understand how, you know, we'll see it here on YouTube a lot. We'll get a bunch of mass comments that are just not even from subscribers, that's sticking to one agenda. I mean, they're like rapid succession. So yes, you can create all the polls you want, but it's not hard to create an algorithm or create a software program to create bots that you give a direction. I mean, any gamer knows these tricks that do shadow boxing on big gaming servers, create multiple characters of the same character that is linked and controlled. Same thing applies. Create an algorithm that creates multiple accounts that will spam comments or affect a poll and sway it one way or the other. So no, the answer ain't always listening to the polls. I mean, I like trying to interact and listen to the people. But you also got to understand, this man's supposed to be in the technology field. He should know these things. But he let him back. He listened to the people. He gave the people what they wanted. Unfortunately, he gave the bots and those that just don't want people to have a voice their say. You know, I've talked about this, you know. It's easy to create a poll, especially if you know the demographics of the area that you're going to poll in. You know where to go to get the outcome of the poll that you want. It's the easiest thing to do. That's why all these voting polls don't mean anything. That's why they were all super shocked when Trump won the election, because they were using the old gimmick and trick of using demographics, knowing how these poles work in these areas, and just using those areas to represent the whole of a state, when it wasn't the whole of a state. It was just a couple communities that they know would would get the answer that they wanted, and they claim it's for the whole state. I mean, it's a simple con artist trick. Scammers use it all the time. I mean, come on. We got to be smarter. We know the communities we live in. We know pretty much how everybody votes just by listening to the talk. We know how they would react to certain things. But we also know if we go into a bigger city, those things change. We've also come to learn that cities will trump rural states when it comes to votes. Because we watched that take place and transpire in Michigan. I mean, through a kid's eyes that pointed it out. Like I said, my friend wasn't even 20 at the time. I think he was just like 19. He was 19, yeah. Young adult. Still a kid in most aspects as we look at it. But he pointed out, we got off work, like we usually did, before we left, we'd shoot the shit for about 10-15 minutes before we'd head out, go home. And he's like, man, I went to bed, Trump was winning Michigan, it was pretty much a done deal. I wake up and next thing I know, they say Trump won. And he's like, but I don't get it. All these counties were red, except for overnight, the city votes came in and it changed the state from red to blue just because of 3 cities. How does the cities outrank all the rural areas? It's a valid question. It's a valid thing to look at, because in a sense, it is the cities that control the votes. I mean, that's why the Pelosi's and certain senators always get reelected, because most of the cities seem to be democratically aligned in the states they live in. If you start breaking down the state votes, start looking at them, you'll start seeing that in many cases, the rural areas vote opposite than the cities. Why is that? Well, that's simple. The rural areas are the everyday people. It's the blue-collar workers, the guys, the mom and pop businesses, small businesses, the farmers, the factory workers, the construction workers. And they vote, much like me, I vote for those that's going to better my lifestyle, better me, our way of living. Because we're the ones out there working and struggling to get by. Always been struggling to get by. It doesn't matter. I mean, right now, after COVID, almost every factory raised their wages. I mean, don't get me wrong, the state of Ohio's minimum wage is still only $7. $7.75, I think it is. That hasn't changed. But now you go to a fast food restaurant, you can be making $13, $14 an hour starting off, which is above minimum wage for the state. But it was the only way they could get people to work. All these factories raised their wages. Now most factories starting off, you're starting off anywhere between $17 to $20 an hour. And people are just jumping around. There's still plenty of people don't want to work. There's plenty of factories that are struggling to hire people. I mean, much like Rome, the Romans ruled through fear. They knew how to control the citizens. They knew how to control those they didn't consider citizens. They know how to use them and pit them against each other. That's why we're so divided on so many things. You know, it's just like I was listening to a space about the Boston Tea Party. And it was part of the story that some of it I had not heard of, which is interesting, to say the least. It was from a book. I can't remember the name of the book. She didn't record the space. Damn. I'll have to message her. I don't know if she'll answer me back or not. Actually, I'll give you guys her name. It was a hell of a space. I enjoyed every minute of it. I know she's planning on doing another one in here soon on the for December. The Redheaded Libertarian. Actually, let me go to her page. Let me see. I enjoy listening to spaces. Like I don't know. I've tried to host a couple, but I just don't got that. It's easier for me to jump on here and do this. Plus, I like what this is, and it's quite a lot less to deal with in a sense. Oh, damn, her page is huge. But she's going to do one for Christmas, around for the Christmas thing for when Washington crossed the Potomac. But the one on, I wish she would have recorded it. And she tweets so much, it's going to take me forever to find what I'm looking for. She actually left the name of the book that she was reading from. It was an excellent podcast. There was stuff in there that I didn't even know about. I mean, obviously, channel title Sons and Daughters of Liberty for a reason. Not going to say, we all know the story of the Sons of Liberty for the most part. We all know my history with why I created this. And it does have meaning to me. Like I said, I'm a direct descendant from John Rutledge, one of the founders of this country, a signer of the Constitution, first Congressional Stamp Act, second Congressional Stamp Act, and the list goes on. Plus, I've had the privilege of reading some of his journals that our family still possesses. And, a little dark side of the history. Well, not dark. He's the only Supreme Court justice, not to be nominated by Congress when he was a for sure shoo-in. But he opposed the treaty with Britain vehemently. But he was a justice of the Supreme Court. Because I can't remember the justice that was on left or passed away or something, and he sat in because George Washington asked him to, it's like, well, you're for sure shoo-in. You're gonna be the next. Congress is gonna elect you to the next Supreme Court, so just go ahead and set in until the confirmation. Which he did not get confirmated because he was against the treaty. I mean, he was labeled many things, a Jeffersonian, because of his views. And he was right, though. I mean, I got to see his words lived out. We didn't pay off our debt to Britain until Clinton's took off during the Clinton's presidency in the 90s. So it took us over 200 years to pay off the debt we owed Britain for our independence. Think about that. He opposed it. But our founding fathers created something that was a little different than Rome. Not so much because I think it was one of the Caesars. I don't know if it was Julius Caesar's. I think it might have been Agrippa. No, it was Julius Caesar. The Roman Senate was 600 senators. Well, he decided to try to control the Senate to allow more people in. Some of the conquered nations, like the Gauls. This is towards his downfall, shortly right before some of the senators stabbed him to death in the Senate. But hey, he's seen what was coming and he wanted to get more control of the Senate. So he started allowing people in, appointing a citizen, which was unheard of. He didn't have stature or land. In fact, he was a Roman legionnaire. I mean, there's so much history of Rome. Rome, I mean, they had a semblance of a court system. Lawyers. We borrowed so much from that era of history. So yes, we are the new Rome. And we're watching the same tactics that was the downfall of Rome. The only thing we haven't had transpire, which we kind of did, for those old enough, I was young enough, and now I'm old enough to remember Desert Storm. The first Desert War, when Clinton got elected, but couldn't take office until like June, till there was a lesson of tension to where we could bring in the new president. Bush served an extra 6 months as president because of a war. And that's something we should watch out for. So there is stuff written in our government body that can extend the stay of a president, including the stay of the Congress. That's why when we get this time of the year, it's always important to pay attention to what they're doing. Because this is when they want to slide a bunch of stuff in. I've talked about this vehemently. When they start to work on bills and pass legislation, it should be no less than 100 pages, and nothing but what pertains to that bill should be ever in that bill. Can't add something that has something completely to do different with it. These are the things that needs changed in our government. Put an end to all this throwing stuff in so we know they're going to pass it because, well, here of late, they've been even having a hard time keeping the Congress government running because it's been so divided amongst themselves. They don't even want to pass legislation. It's to the point where I want to see a bill that's just about that bill. Nothing extra, nothing subsided into it. Only pertaining to that bill. I don't want to see 1,000, 2,000 page fucking document that they can't read because it is their job to read every bill and know what's in every bill, just like it is if we ever go to court. The judge will tell you it is your due diligence to know the law. There is no excuse. Ignorance is bliss. And that actually came from legal term, from a judge that said that. It is your due diligence to know the law. Ignorance is bliss. There's no excuse for you. It's your job to know it. You can't use I didn't know that in a courtroom because it's your job to know it. It's just like it's our job to know what Congress passes. And we have access to Congress.gov. We have access to see what they're passing, to read the bills. Yes, no, I'm not going to spend 3 days trying to read 1,000 1,000, 4,000, 2,000, 3,000 page of legislation because it's too much. Then you start seeing all the extra stuff they're throwing in there that has nothing to do with the bill matter at hand. That's how they've gotten away with so much. And obviously, we've come to learn through history, having that many senators and congressmen and women, it's just too many. And all their staffers. I tell you what, when somebody gets reelected, it's time a new staff should be brought in. Not using the same old staff that just permanently stays there and jumps on to the next elected person that comes in. Well, if they got the skills, you're right, they do. But they're also the very same ones that are part of the corruption that's going on in Congress. And it's just not Congress. It even happens at our state level. You know, I can't remember who was bashing. Somebody was bashing something. Oh yeah, it was about Ohio, and it was the Vice President Kamala Harris talking about Ohio, saying that you no longer have the freedom to vote in the state of Ohio. This is a good one. I'm like, what? Ohio passed voter ID laws. And this is some of the most common sense legislation I've ever seen. Because the simple fact is, in almost every state, you're required to have your ID. If you get pulled over, a cop asks you for your ID, and you do not have it, it's a crime. It's a petty misdemeanor in most states, but it's a fine. I mean, it used to be if you didn't have your driver's license or a state ID, your social security card number would work. That was considered your ID. It still is. Your social security number is your identity. But yeah, you could be charged for not having an ID. I mean, you can't buy alcohol or tobacco without a state ID. Hell, in the state of Ohio, when you renew your ID, they punch a hole in it, and you got to wait for it to get mailed to you. You can't even buy alcohol and tobacco if you get asked for your ID and they see it's hole punched. Even though you have that slip of paper, they don't acknowledge that slip of paper, and they prohibited from actually selling to you. I actually found that out. I tried to buy a pack of cigarettes and actually got carded for once. Go figure, right? But that was when they're pushing that issue. You need to be 21 to buy cigarettes. So it was new. So they were enforcing it. So they were carding everybody. And yes, I get it. I might be 45, but I look younger, early 30s, mid 30s. So yeah, I understand, but I got gray. Especially when my goatee grows out a little bit more, you'll see the gray in it. I mean, shit, you'll see the gray in my hair. Not so much gray; it's more white. It's actually white. I mean, but my hair's thick enough; it hides most of it. I really only notice it when I'm cutting it, or like the sides and back when it starts growing out. You can see the pepper in it. But you have to have an ID. I mean, shit, you go into an adult bookstore, they card you. You don't have your ID, they kick you out because you got to prove you're over 18. So why not have to have an ID to vote? Does that solve everything? No. But it does help. Because, we know people can get temporary driver's license or state IDs that aren't citizens. You can get with a visa and a passport, you can get a temporary driver's license to drive, so you can get an ID. So it's not the answer to all things, but it does help. But they want to say it's racist. How is it right? Okay, fine. If it's racist, why do I got to show my ID to buy alcohol? Why do I got to show a cop when I get pulled over my driver's license if it's so racist? Quit throwing the term racist around and using it as a crutch to further your political ideological bullshit, your rhetoric, your hypocrisy. It's nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do. It has just to prove who you are. That the picture matches the ID. But we live in a day and age where 90% of people out there now, half the time, the picture doesn't match their face. Constantly changing their hair color, constantly changing their way they look. But that's the other push. We're not going there, but you know what I'm talking about, facial recognition. They're pushing for that. It's just too much. All this stuff is too much. It's taking the control and the freedoms away from everybody. Some things are common sense. I think voting ID, your ID to vote is common sense. You should show it. Have to show it. If you got to show it to buy cigarettes, tobacco, go into an adult bookstore, strip club, bar, or to a cop when you get pulled over, it should be common sense that you should have to show it when you go vote, which is something that is very important that we do. And that would actually solve some problems. Wouldn't be hearing all these dead people voting anymore because they can't. There's no ID. So now if a state gets caught with dead people voting, and it happens every voting time, Ohio got busted for it during Trump's election. Many states do. I'd put an end to that. And if it didn't, well, then the state's got to answer some serious questions. Or the polling area where those votes came from are going to have to answer some serious questions. That's why mail-in, that's the fear. We do that, then mail-in valid voting will become obsolete. Can't do it because you can't prove who you are. Exactly. That's why they don't want it. And there's a simple solution to that. Having to go to if you're going to do a mail-in voting ballot, go to a notary, have a notary, just look at your ID, make sure the face matches the picture, and sign off on it. Mail-in balloting is supposed to be for those that can't, the elderly, those that are going to be away and traveling, military, government officials who are going to be overseas so yes, but it ain't for everyday people. I just don't want to go in November. I don't want to wait in line, so I'm going to do it. No. I mean, we got to get real at some point. At some point, we got to realize that So many of these things that we are arguing about are stupid arguments that simple common sense, if we actually talked about it and not argued about it, we'd see the light. We'd see through their deceptions, their psychological warfare propaganda bullshit that they're pulling on us. You know, that's like those journalists is got suspended for doxing. Yes, you should have been. There's no place for it. Common sense says that. And like I said, you go to court and you ask for a motion of discovery, guess what you're not going to see on there? The person who might be testifying is address. You might not even see their name. In some cases, it'll all be blacked out. So what makes a journalist any different? What makes you out there that thinks it's cool to do it? Because essentially, you start doxing people, you start seeing what been happening to Tim Pool. People coming up to his place. People calling in threats. Calling the cops saying something's happening. No, we created a colorful term for that too. Which is not so colorful because it's very dangerous. When you do that, you're jeopardizing somebody's life. Because a cop, when he comes through that door, he doesn't know what's going on. Swatting is not cool. In fact, many states passed laws making it criminal if it's a false. We've also seen people have died from it. But that's a form of doxing. Somebody doxed that person's information, got that person's information, and used it in a harmful criminal act with an intent to cause harm or disruption. Because that was your intent when you called that in. Your intent might not have been for somebody to get hurt, but it was put to instill fear, to bully somebody, to intimidate somebody, which is still a crime. That's a form of doxing. Because you dox somebody's information, you glean somebody's information, because yes, there is such thing as public records. You have a right to get public information on certain things. But within all those, if you actually read it, because you're given a nice little thing that you're going to either, well, this day and age, you're just going to say, I accept that I'm not going to use this information to cause physical harm or stalk this person. You see, that right there, when you even get that information, you're agreeing that you're not going to use it to do something stupid. So therefore, you know full damn well if you do something, you're committing a crime. Common sense. But it's a tool for people to intimidate somebody, to put fear in them, to stop them, cancel them, to assassinate their character, to assassinate them. And it makes me sick. I don't like seeing it to people I don't like. Because it only takes one idiot. And it could happen to me. You know, I'm pretty good at not giving out too much information. But it's still not hard. It only takes one semi-genius kid to create a program to get the information. Or somebody at one of these platforms to leak that information. Or a third party to leak that information, because most of this shit, I mean, I'm streaming from the mines to YouTube. I'm sharing it across all these platforms. But I'm using a third party app from the mines because, you know, it's called The Gathering on the mines, but it's the Jitsi app. I actually have it on my phone, so I can live stream from my phone. I can be mobile and still do streams. That's why I like the Gather. I like it for the fact if you guys want to call in, you can message me in chat or message me on wherever I've shared this video, and I can shoot you the phone number or a link. I'll allow you to join me right here over on my group in the Gathering. Group, Sons of Daughters of Liberty on the Minds in the Gathering app. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to sign up. So yes, you don't have to go download Skype or Discord or whatever. So yeah, that makes it so much simpler. Yes, I got to deal with the fact now that you can only stream for an hour. But like I said, hey, you get a quick couple-minute break while I just go in and re-enter the code. It'll buffer for a little bit and come right back. Most of the time. We did run into that technical glitch the other day. It's like I said, that's been over a year since that's ever happened. You know, we live in a day and age. You know, I titled this the New Rome because it's the same old tactics. This is the tactics we're seeing now is what destroyed Rome. And we got to learn from, that's what history's for, to learn from, so we don't repeat the atrocities. But yet we keep seeing them happen. We see, no, kids can no longer read these books that we had to read because it's racist, because it's homophobic. It always seems like when they want to push a narrative or when they want to cause an argument, that's what they go to right off the rip. It's racism, or it goes against identity now. Well, pedophilia is not a crime. It's an it's identity. You're attacking. No, it's not. It's not even a mental. It's a crime. Period. If it wasn't a crime, then you need to go release Maxine Gets Well. It's too late for Epstein. He already got disappeared. No, it's a crime. The sad part is the biggest crime to that whole shindig was the judge banning the black book. The Madam's book, so nobody could see whose name's in it. So all these elitist rich bastards, congressmen, senators, actors, musicians can get away with it. It's sickening. Now I get tired of seeing those with money think they can get away with everything, because they do. I'm sick and tired of seeing these congressmen and women who have no wealth go into Congress and be millionaires. Yes, my friends quoted it right. They all need to be like NASCAR drivers. Wear their suits with all the labels and all the patches of those that endorse them. All their sponsors. Because actually and within their ethics, they're supposed to recuse themselves if they for conflict of interest, if something that they have investments in or ties in, they're supposed to recuse themselves. You know what the sad part of it is? I speak of this is the new Rome. It is very much like the Roman times. All of our paid advertisers, big corporation and companies, you know what they are, right? They're the thugs that ran the streets in Rome, that loaned money, the loan sharks. That's what your corporations have become. They become the mob, the crime bosses. Which had great sway and power in Rome. They controlled the Senate. They had control of the Senate. Senators used them to do what? Spread rumors, spread lies against a fellow senator or a fellow citizen or soon to be dictator. Enough to make you sick. That nothing's changed. We haven't learned from our history. But yet we let our government take control of our schools. We let the DOJ tell parents, you're domestic terrorists for standing up to your school boards. The curriculum that's being taught today in public schools is not the same curriculum that I learned. But I've broke this down in past videos, many recent videos. Child Protection Service that was so big, just completely put fear in parents that they couldn't punish their kids. I mean, all this stuff. I mean, I can go back from my lifetime when I seen this stuff happen and take root, how it drove families apart, how the control was taken away from the parents. Clear down to how the government caused recessions to force both parents to work, so both parents had less time to pay attention to what the kids were learning in school, to where people no longer sit at the dinner table because one parent's working first, one parent's working second or third. Then along comes the technology movement. We get internet. Now it's all of our electrical devices that we must have. That's more distraction, pulling people away from the conversations that they would normally have because they're too addicted to the tablet or their phone in their hand or the computer in front of their face. All these social media platforms have become the true cancer and the true psychological and propaganda weapons being used against everybody. Yes, they're nice tools for us. But like I said, they all are great, except for they're not being used for great things anymore. They're not being used for what they were envisioned to be used for. That's the problem. I mean, we see it with the Twitter files that released. Yes, I'm still iffy on those because, like I said, from what I've seen, I don't know if I could take any of that and use it in a court of law. That a court would recognize that as real evidence. That a grand jury would even look at and say, yes, that's real evidence. It's enough to proceed in a case. And you see these that they're sharing and stuff. You notice they're not doxing the people. They're blacking out people's names to a certain degree. I mean, it's just one of those things, right? When do you stop to question things like that? I mean, it's been making for some great topics and talks and debates, especially on Twitter. Some good arguments going back and forth. But in the end, what's it really doing? Kind of a distraction, honestly. If you're going to release them, do it the right way. Release them in a courtroom. Get a team of lawyers. Us can afford it. Probably got some of the best lawyers in the world. Go after these people in the courts. If you're truly about what you say you're about, but like I said, actions speak louder than words, and you promised to do something for Flint, Michigan that you still have not yet done. How can I trust you? Actions speak louder than words. I like some of the things you've done, some of the changes you've made, but that don't mean I can trust you. I'm about trust. Ask my ex. She did something that ruined any amount of trust. And lied to me when I asked. Simple truth. I wouldn't have cared the answer. But here we step. Well, we're getting close to that hour mark, and like I said, I don't got no view. Doesn't look like anybody's interested in the video today. I don't know. I guess it is kind of early, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm not going to go on for another hour. Because I kind of wanted to do this with interaction. And like I said, we'll finish the remaining few minutes out. Nobody pops in the chat. Nobody's requested to join in, so I'm not going to sit here and continue on drumming down the same topics that we keep talking about. I mean, I got better things to do. And quite frankly, it's not fun when we talk about the same things. It's not fun when you don't have other people's opinions and views. Even though we might not agree on everything, like I didn't agree with something that Bree said the other day. But it wasn't something I wanted to argue and debate with her about either, because it wasn't, to me, it wasn't important. But she had an opinion. And there's some things in her opinion that I understood. I get where you're coming from. I just don't agree. If I thought it was an interesting point, I would have threw my 2 cents in. Because it was just one of those topics where it would lead into something that I think would have been more argumentative than constructive. And not saying that it would be argumentative, because we wouldn't argue about it. We just both have our own personal opinions on it. And it was nothing that I felt was worth that you guys know me by now, I go off feel a lot. It wasn't something I felt that we needed to get into. And but there might be a time for that conversation, because it wasn't a good topic. It'd be a good topic to debate and talk about. So I might revisit it, because morals and spirituality are very important. I just have a different opinion on the fact that our spirituality and our morals should be 2 different things. kept separate. And not condensed as the one and saying it's set in stone, because nothing's set in stone. We are constantly evolving, constantly learning, constantly changing. Our morals will change as we learn and get older. Same way with our spirituality. For most people, the more they get into it, the more change. So that's why I've always kept those two separate. My morals aren't going to dictate my spirituality. My spirituality ain't going to dictate my morals. But to a lot of people, they're one and the same, and they're not. And that just opens the door for, yeah, I know I said I wasn't going to pass the hour mark, right? But I wasn't also going to let it just end right there. It just opens the door for, it actually opened the door for a great topic. It just wasn't going to be the topic for that podcast. It's something I probably will revisit, because I like topics like that, because they're thought-provoking. They make you question things, and everybody has a different opinion, or has a different opinion or perspective on it. And like I said, and 99% of the time, the things we talk about, that's what it is. It's our perspectives. It's everybody's had a different upbringing in life, walked a different path. No one has the same opinions and views. We might agree on things, but we all got to those opinions and views a different way. And I think that's important to look at when we talk about anything and have topics and conversations about stuff. Doesn't mean the person's wrong, because we might not be completely right. Or we're just at that point in our spiritual growth or life that we've learned that yet or seen that. But now, after it's been brought up, that seed's planted, and it might trigger something down the road, or something might happen to where we reflect back onto that. Because, just because that's the thing about our memories. Everything we take in is imprinted within our mind. We might forget it, but something will come around and trigger that memory. So, like I said, we're always planting seeds. I mean, it might be, as I discussed, that person walking down the street that just said something out of the blue, not talking to you or anybody, but you heard it for some odd reason. You heard it because it was meant for you to hear. And I've seen people walk up. Did you say something? I'm like, no, I was talking to myself. It happens. I think everybody's had that happen to them. But that's why they're trying to strip the identity thing that they're pushing, the cancel culture and all this, is to strip you from being able to hear those messages. Your ability to see that. They really do. They want a hive mind controlled oneness. Their narrative. They don't want you to have another narrative. They don't want you to question. They want you to act and do as they say. And that's not the society that we want to live in. Because that's the very same groups of people throughout history as persecuted people. Burnt people at the stake. Hung them. Created labels for them. Assassinated them for their beliefs, their ability to be free thinkers. The Roman Empire did not want free thinkers. They wanted people that would obey, follow, and adhere to their philosophies. And like every culture since them and before them, we've taken these things from the previous cultures that have been conquered, that have fallen. the history or what they knew at that time. The United States is a young nation, a young empire, or not empire. Empires, we're not an empire. Days of empires are over for now. We're a young nation compared to the monarchies of Britain. And other countries. Hey, I've been somewhat all right, Dalton. Hey, long time to see. I've been off work for the last couple of weeks sick. I've been sick a lot this year. But other than that, I'm doing all right. I don't know if I'm going to do a year in review this year or not. Like I said, after this will be starting next week. I'm going to start moving back, be moving to getting back to Ohio, and which means I'll be back to crap internet once I get situated. I might might do one last podcast next weekend. I think was it next weekend, Christmas weekend? Maybe so. Yep. So I'll go back to work this week. The last full week of work, I'll be off for all next week, which I will definitely want to be moved. I have to be moved out by the 31st. So. Yeah, I might do a Christmas podcast, and that's going to be it, guys. Until the first of the year, after I get situated back at the house. Then like I said, I still got some legal stuff I got to take care of first of the year, which just sounds like I'm not going to be able to get into court until February. Our lawyer's talking about, so still got that to deal with. I'll be glad when that's taken care of, because like I said, that's just another system that's broken. But like I said, I had no intention for this to be any longer. That's what it's been. Like I said, I'll probably do another podcast for Christmas, maybe Friday, Saturday, depending. Oh, it's not on Christmas Day. Definitely not going to be more likely there's not going to be a New Year's one, because, like I said, I'll be moving that week. I want to be out of here before the 31st, so. Lucky for me, though, I really still don't owe much. Really, I only need the U-Haul for the furniture and washer and dryer, and that's it. Everything else, I pack in the back of the Suburban and move in one day. In one haul. Yeah, that's like I said. Although they're calling for some crazy weather next week too. I already experienced some of it with the cold. I mean, shit. Well, here's good thing about shit that transpired to London after COVID. I try not to use it, but battery was dead. Couldn't get a jump. And I don't really give props. I don't give props to Walmart at all. But the guy that delivered the battery charger, because I found one and was able to order it, have him deliver it to me here, which was kind of cool because I needed it. But then after he dropped it off, and I told him, I was like, man, I hope this works. He's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah, battery's dead. I haven't been able to get the thing started. My dad got the got my charger, so and I forgot to put it back in. And he's like, wow, you need a jump? It's like, you jump? Yeah. Dude, this guy went out of his way. Let's say I said, there's good people out in this world. And that guy made my day being able to jump start it because, like I said, I was out of a few things. Cigarettes, it's out of sight, out of mind for me, so it wasn't really bothering me. Plus, I had a vape pen, break glass in case of emergency type thing, and honestly, I was doing great without cigarettes for 2 days. But it was nice to be able to go get some cigarettes, get a couple things, some food that I was low on. Plus, I needed to drive it around so it would charge up. But he didn't have to give me a jump. He didn't have to offer. He did what he did, dropped me off the battery charger. It was like, good looking out, man. That's why I don't blame. That's like, let's say, sometimes we get caught up in all the negative stuff that goes on in life that we constantly bombarded on the internet with, on these social media platforms. We hear all of these people that are just don't care, and we forget there's people out there that will go out their way for you, give you a helping hand. That's what the holidays are about. I think I just came up with the idea for the next podcast, the holidays, Christmas, whatever you want to call it. I've actually posted this on a couple of people. Some people are like, man, we're so strapped. I'm not going to be able to get the presents. It's not about the presents. Never has been. That's the corporations that started that crap. It's always been the biggest gift you can give is you. Sitting there, inviting people over, cooking dinners, being festive, having conversations. It's not about the presents. It's about the fellowship. Having a few beers, some drinks, whatnot. And we get it. We're all adults now. It's not about the presents. So that's like I don't know. The kids will actually have a lasting memory. They might not think it because they're taught that Christmas is about presents. The best presents you can give is you. The love, the fellowship, your friendship, the conversations, being together. That's what it's about. It's not about the gift of presents. It's about the gift of giving yourself. There's so many good deeds that happen every day, every moment that's overlooked because we're so caught up in the negative BS of what's going on in social media that we allow it to influence our everyday living. It's like I said, probably one of the best movies that I have watched in a while. That was Ready Player One because it had one of the best messages ever at the end. And it was shutting things off to take a break. Not allowing to go in. Best message ever. That was pretty much subliminal. To give everybody a break. To go out and enjoy the real life. That's what everybody needs to do. At least once a week. Turn everything off. Take a break from it. limit or just limit your time on it. You'll feel better. You'll feel healthier. I know I do when I do it. You know, and it's something I can confidently say. I can live by example. You see me do it a lot now. Take a break. Tune out. There's so much out there that you're missing because you're too addicted to your phones, tablets, and social media platforms. You're missing out on the real, healthy, valuable things in life. With that said, you guys all enjoy. Have a beautiful rest of your Sunday evenings. Be safe out there, especially those who are dealing with winter weather. And I know, like I said, I know we got cold temperatures getting ready to set in, real cold temperatures. A lot of places getting lots amount of snow, severe thunderstorms in the southern areas. So thoughts and prayers are out there with you guys. Enjoy the holidays. Have a Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Whatever you may be celebrating. Blessed Yule for those that celebrate it. I will see you guys all on the next one. Before I turn this thing into a 2-hour podcast.